Oklahoma is now at the middle of the full-fledged and historic drought. Oklahoma is now in the middle of a full-fledged and historic drought. And here's the scoop slam. The OU football program has won 7 national titles, but it has been nearly 20 years, 19 in fact, since the Sooners last won one. That's the longest stretch OU has played without winning one ring to rule them all, since Oklahoma went 18 years between 1956 and 1954. With the loss to LSU in the Peach Bowl on Saturday, Lincoln Riley suffered the worst loss of his career as a head coach. After getting off to one of the best starts in the history of the sport by a first-time head coach with 3 Big 12 conference titles, 3 consecutive college football playoff appearances, coaching 3 Heisman Trophy finalists, and getting 2 Heisman winners, he watched the team he built get crushed 63-28 at Mercedes-Benz Stadium on the biggest stage in the entire sport. Before getting dragged by 35 in Atlanta, the worst loss of the Riley era came in the playoff last year in a 45-35 loss to Alabama in the Orange Bowl. 10 months later, Riley told reporters every loss at Oklahoma is shocking, following a, yes, shocking loss to Kansas State. But he thought they'd bounce back. Just a couple weeks before the playoff, he reveled in the fact that no one expected the Sooners to earn entry into the National Invitational this year after getting thumped by the Wildcats in Manhattan, Kansas. Riley claimed his team had the make and mold of a champion. Yes, the Sooners came back from a 25-point deficit to beat Baylor at home and then doubled up the Baylor Bears in the Big 12 championship game. But perhaps he should have amended that to that of the make and mold of a conference champion. Because against an LSU team, most experts and analysts, myself included, picked to beat the Sooners going away, the Sooners got tipped like it was them in the schooner on October 19th when the wagon took an embarrassing spill on Oklahoma soil. Then, in SEC country, OU was embarrassed. And while Riley doesn't think much of conference rivalries, the rest of the college football world does. So score one more for the SEC, who will have a team in the college football playoff national championship game for the 5th year in a row. Meanwhile, Oklahoma's football program and fandom suffers the humiliation of being the only team in the sport to play in 4 playoffs without winning a single game. But more important than that is the pride of people, our people, a fan base who now knows their team is farther away than they thought. This was a rebuilding year to some. Then it turned into a title team at OU Texas. The Sooners might have outperformed preseason expectations, but that's only if you don't expect to win, and I do. Of course, OU did not walk into the program's first Peach Bowl with its full assortment of players. Suspended players Ronnie Perkins, Ramondre Stevenson, and Trajan Bridges could have helped. Losing the team's second leading tackler and starting safety in Delaren Turner-Yell to injury definitely hurts, pun intended. Watching starting nickel safety Brendan Radley-Hiles pick up an unnecessary targeting penalty where he launched every fiber of his 5'9" being into running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who wasn't even supposed to play, earned him an ejection that felt like a punch to the kidneys for OU fans. But watching quarterback and talisman Jalen Hurts, the number 10 wearing number 1, play his final game out with anything less than a national championship while wearing Oklahoma across his chest felt like being cheated. After all, he was the soul of this team and perhaps the most respected player in the entire sport. And there was more than just the University of Oklahoma who stood behind him. Of course, there's the hope of the future. There was the moment true freshman quarterback Spencer Rattler stepped in as the trigger man in mop-up time against the Bayou Bengals. There's the promise of the defense Alex Grinch is building with the return of linebacker Caleb Kelly, of defensive tackle Jordan Kelly, of cornerback Trey Norwood, and longer, meaner, rangier defensive backs we hope are playing press man coverage in 2020. The flip side of OU's loss to LSU is there's a 22-year-old OU fan who has not lived through a losing season at Oklahoma. There's a 45-year-old OU fan who's seen 5 national titles in her lifetime. I'm 32, so don't tell me a damn thing about the 1990s when you got enough rings to make a set of brass knuckles. If I sound pissed, it's because I am. This team, Oklahoma Sooners, is the reflection of how people feel about the state outside of it. Many of you know I went to New York last week, flying out on Christmas Day no less, in large part because of how I talk about OU football, and I love to work. And this team is what people know of our state. They don't know about how our education is in crisis. They don't know Jim Thorpe is from here, and Pennsylvania merely took his name. We're still just a dust bowl and a forgotten people to most of them. They kind of know we corralled KD, Russ, and Harden onto the same team years ago. But what they know is the monster Bud Wilkinson built, the swagger Barry Switzer brought, and the consistency of excellence Bob Stoops instilled. To be embarrassed like this for 3 straight years is just crushing. Yes, we all feel bad for the kids, but I feel bad for you. You who works a second job to afford season tickets. You who picked up the holiday shifts to afford making the trip to West Point next season. You who scheduled life around 6 home games a year. You who spent Christmas money on a trip to Atlanta, you know you have to tighten the budget for over the next 3 months to afford. You who have to defend this team at work today. Lincoln swears the crowd, OU fans, move that team. Well, brother, they're out there in droves doing their part. Have been for years. They are not your outside noise. They are within your walls. You can only play the please show up for an 11 a.m. kickoff card so often before people ask, what more do you need from them? As they hold out their still beating hearts for you to break. If the expectation feels insane to you, then you ain't built for this. The criticism comes with privilege. Yeah, I'm the millennial yelling back at your Men's Health ad, tighten up, old man. When did you get so soft? And you're right to wonder how many times OU can expect to get back to the game that puts the Sooners a game away from that elusive 8th national championship. And when, if ever, might the Sooners win it? Certainly not today. Just wait till next year. Yeah, go be a Cubs fan. But what do Sooners and Big 12 fans get out of waiting until next year? Do we get another 0-3 start in bowl games from this podunk conference? Do we get ampersand U whipping Oklahoma State and Aggie on Aggie crime in the Texas Bowl? Notre Dame mollywopping Iowa State in the Camping World Bowl? LSU stomping a mud hole and walking the Sooners dry in SEC country behind enemy lines. Winning the Big 12 title only means something to those programs and fans within it. It's a horrible predictor of postseason success and particularly highlights the value of recruiting. OU and Texas are 2-8 in the playoff and national title games this century. Oklahoma is 0-7 in playoff and national title games since winning its last, and we can't count on Texas to do more than get made fun of when Tom Herman mocks a quarterback, gets doubled up by Maryland, and flips double-barreled birds at the camera on the first day of early signing period. Texas won the Big 12's last national title in 2005. I was a junior in high school that year. Since then, the SEC has had a team in the national title game 14 of the last 15 years. They've won 9 of the 14 national championships they played in, with some combination of Florida, Auburn, LSU, Georgia, and Alabama. The SEC is that dominant. Why? Because those upper echelon teams recruit better than any other conference in America. Shout out to a brilliant viewer and listener, Micah Alsobrook, on the research pass off the backboard here. I'm finna throw this down with both hands, Micah. Since 2003, more than half of the national championship teams have averaged a top 5 recruiting ranking in the 247 Sports Composite. The lowest ranked was 2010 national champ Auburn with an average ranking of 16th because Cam Newton is the best college football player of all time. Fight me. 11 of the 14 national champs since 2003 have averaged a top 10 or better recruiting class. 6 of those 14 averaged a top 5 class or better. In the college football playoff era, Oklahoma's best 4-year composite recruiting ranking was an average of 10.5, so damn near 11th. And not only is that not gonna cut it in the thin air of a national semifinal game, but now we have a data point to show it's gonna get you nationally embarrassed 63-28, down 49-14 at the half, and giving up damn near 500 yards of offense in 30 minutes of football to an SEC team that had never played in the playoff before. Now that the SEC has discovered the forward pass, OU's offensive advantage has been nullified in the big game settings. Oh, how OU fans would really wish for that 2017 Georgia team to be playing them again. But the only way to win now is to have Kratos wielding the blade of chaos to get and set the edge. You got to have Hulk dominating the interior at nose. You got to have Thor with Stormbreaker roaming the middle, and some combination of T'Challa and Captain Marvel as safeties in your match quarter scheme to stand a chance, stupid. You need freak shows on the defense now and forevermore, or you're just going to get cut down by the conference where it just means more. Deuces.